She had spent 11 years letting her family believe she was nobody. She never corrected them. She never explained. But the day her sister looked her in the eye and laughed in front of the entire family, calling her a waste of a life, was the same day a 5-star general walked through her mother's front door and saluted her before he said a single word. Danielle Foster arrived at her mother's house in Millbrook, Ohio, carrying a single duffel bag and wearing a plain gray jacket that hid everything about who she really was. The Thanksgiving table was already set. Her sister Kayla was pouring wine and talking about her promotion at the marketing firm. Her brother Ryan was showing off photos of his new truck. And Danielle, the quiet one, the one who never explained where she disappeared to for months at a time, took her usual seat at the end of the table, where nobody expected her to speak. Her mother, Carol, filled the silence the way she always did. She told the neighbors that Danielle worked in logistics. She never asked what that meant. Nobody in the family knew that Danielle had spent the last decade inside some of the most dangerous places on earth, carrying responsibilities she was legally forbidden to describe. To them, she was the daughter who never settled down, never married, never built the kind of life they understood. Halfway through dinner, Kayla raised her glass and made a toast, everyone's accomplishments. She named Ryan's new job. She named her own promotion. When she reached Danielle, she paused, smiled at the table, and said the words that would echo louder than she ever intended. "She's nobody," Kayla said, laughing lightly, as if it were harmless. "She doesn't even have a real career. We don't even know what she does." The table laughed with her. Even her mother offered a tired, apologetic smile instead of defending her. Danielle said nothing. She had heard worse in rooms far more dangerous than this one. She simply looked down at her plate and let the moment pass, the way she had let 100 moments pass before. Then came a knock at the door, sharp and deliberate, the kind of knock that carries weight before anyone even opens it. Carol answered, expecting a neighbor. Instead, she found 2 soldiers in dress uniforms standing at attention on her porch. And behind them, stepping forward with the calm authority of a man who commanded armies, was a decorated officer with 5 silver stars gleaming on his shoulders. General Marcus Holloway did not ask for Carol. He did not ask for Kayla or Ryan. He walked past the stunned family, past the half-eaten plates of turkey and the abandoned toast, and stopped directly in front of Danielle. "Colonel Foster," he said, his voice steady enough to silence the entire room. "I owe you my son's life. I came to thank you in person, the way it should have been done years ago." The room went completely still. Kayla's wine glass hovered halfway to her lips. Ryan's mouth fell open. Carol pressed a hand to her chest, unable to speak. The general turned to the stunned family and explained, briefly and without exaggeration, what Colonel Danielle Foster had done. Years earlier, during a mission that could never be discussed publicly, she had led a team into a collapsing structure to pull 3 wounded soldiers to safety, including his own son. Moments before the building came down entirely, she had carried him on her back for over a mile under fire. She had never once mentioned it. She had never once asked for recognition. He reached into his jacket and produced a small case. Inside was a medal Danielle had never allowed herself to accept in a formal ceremony, because ceremonies meant questions. And questions meant explaining a life her family was never meant to know about. Then, in front of her mother, her sister, and her brother, General Holloway stood at full attention and saluted her. "It is an honor to finally do this properly, Colonel," he said. Kayla's hands were shaking. Carol was crying quietly into a napkin. Ryan simply stared at his sister as though seeing her for the very first time. Danielle stood slowly, the same quiet composure she always carried, and returned the salute with practiced precision. For 11 years, she had let her family believe she was nobody, not out of shame, but because some kinds of service were never meant to be spoken about at a dinner table. She had never needed them to know. She had only needed herself to know. Kayla finally spoke, her voice small and broken. "I am so sorry. I never knew." Danielle placed a gentle hand on her sister's shoulder. "You were never supposed to," she said softly. "That was always the point. For the first time in years, the family sat together in silence that felt like understanding instead of distance. Carol reached across the table and took her daughter's hand, finally seeing the woman who had been sitting quietly among them all along. Some heroes never asked to be seen. If this story moved you, like this video, leave a comment telling us who in your life deserves more credit than they receive, and subscribe to Soul Relief Stories for more powerful, true-to-life inspired journeys.